to this computer. All right, cool. We're recording now. And let's just go ahead and get started. How do I want to do this? Do I want to do this presentation mode? I'm just going to try presentation mode. Slideshow, share screen. There we go. Share. All right. Hopefully this will run a little bit cleaner, a little bit better than the last time. All right. So fore aft fundamental. Cool. And of course, you know, I don't know if, how many of you guys are familiar with Gagne? R.W. Gagne? I don't know if any of you really are, but he's a guy who put together like a 9-step program for what he called facilitation of learning. And it's kind of like a different way of setting up meetings. And I encourage you to look it up. I can also share information that I have with him. I really like the way he spells it out because it's very, very simple. The ski instructor's manual has their ski teaching cycle that we use, which actually has 7 steps, and a lot of those are not far off from what Gagne says. But one of the first things that Gagne says is you introduce what the thing is. Today is going to be about fore aft, right? And then what I gotta do? I'm gonna do this way. All right. And then what does the fundamental say? Fundamental says control the relationship of the center of mass to the base of support to direct pressure along the length of the skis. What does that mean to everybody? In the simplest terms, what does that mean?
Well, along the length of the skis means the whole length of the skis. So it could be sometimes forward, sometimes back, sometimes in the center.
Cool. Anybody else? I know this might
Base
seem a
of
little
support
rudimentary.
or the
Yeah.
center of mass to affect the relationship between the two.
Yeah, exactly. So, and of course they use big words, right? The other ones seem kind of simple and quaint compared to this one. This one's like got big words: center of mass, the base of support. What the hell is a center of mass and what the hell is a base of support? And why do they use that language, right? Where you got edging, which is modify edging through a combination of inclination and angulation, right? It seems pretty simple compared to this one. And I like to think of this one, as I've said before, I like to think of this one as 2 parts, right? Control the relationship between the center of mass, which is this part up here, and the base of support, which is the ski, right? And that relationship moves around, right? Because we're on a moving platform all the time. And then we have the second part, which is direct pressure along the length of the ski. And what does that mean? What does that mean to everybody? I'm just real curious. And by the way, this is part of Gagne's recall previous learning, which is step 2 in his program.
Well, technically it means the whole length, but really in practice, sometimes, you know, that varies depending on where you are in the turn.
Mm-hmm. Why?
Because of the forces, because it matters whether you are straight down the hill or you're at the end of the turn, in which case there's less pull of gravity.
Anybody else got any ideas? I'm not saying you're wrong, Rebecca.
Same thing about this fundamental is it's descriptive instead of proscriptive.
Yeah.
Ski to ski, it says direct pressure between or from ski to ski to direct pressure to the outside ski. This just says direct it along the length. It doesn't say get it forward here, get it to the tail there. So I think that in and of itself tells you that where you have the pressure of the skis depends on intent, conditions, and
well, it doesn't say where you are in the turn
Mm-hmm.
and what you need to be doing in the turn.
No, it does not.
It just,
Yeah.
and that's what I think is Rebecca's point.
Yeah. So then back to that original question, why? Why do we want the direct pressure along the length of the ski? What is that importance?
To determine where you're gonna get grip.
Yeah, cool.
Mhm.
Kind of got to look at it like this tool, the ski is a tool, like a hammer. And if I want to swing a hammer, I want to use the hard end, right? And that is you could almost say it's like the system hammer has a center of mass and you're working the base of support, right, with your hand. And how hard you swing the hammer, how quickly you swing the hammer, all of those things you're manipulating the tool in a way that you want it to be manipulated. That speaks to the intent. You want to direct pressure along this length of the ski in order to get an intention, get an outcome that you're looking for. And the outcome in this case is grip. Where can I get the ski to grip? Or in simpler terms, where can I get the ski to bend? Because that's the language you use when we talk about fore aft, right? We want the ski to bend. That's, yeah, skiing outcome.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
And just for my own clarification, if the objective is where we're going to get grip or get ski to bend, wouldn't it be also better to say at the initiation of the turn where you should be directing pressure, and at the end of the turn, using those two extremes where we should be getting pressure? And is there a agreed upon answer to that?
I think there is. I think the language you're using might be a little confusing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a one where you kind of got to like, what is pressure?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody explain to me what pressure is.
You want the physics explanation or?
No, I want the skiing information. I mean, the physics thing is pressure is what is pressure is force over space, right?
Yeah,
Force over area. But what is pressure to us? And it could be a combination of those two, right? It could be.
I think pressure is how much weight you put on the ski.
Yeah. But how do we know how much weight we put on it?
Well, essentially by bending it, or you can feel whether you apply more force to the ski or less force to the ski.
Cool. I like the word feel. I like the word feel. So there's two things that are happening right here, right? We're directing pressure along the length of the ski. But how are we directing pressure? How much do we direct pressure? Things like that is part of that feedback loop. And I remember Jenny saying a couple of years ago that force or pressure is force that we feel, right? Because we feel that pressure, even though it's not technically pressure. It's just how it's part of that feedback loop that we need to have. So this is where we're directing pressure along the length of the ski. We're feeling where we're directing that pressure. That's creating an outcome that we want. We're getting grip somewhere using a combination of other fundamentals.
Hey, Chuck, this is Daryl. I have a question.
Yeah,
Assuming that it's correct that we want to be center mass, so pressure's distributed equally, well, maybe be higher underneath the feet, and maybe it diminishes a bit towards the edges, but kind of, I don't know if I'm saying this right, but given that premise, why aren't bindings center mounted? I mean, I know they are for park rats, but for everybody, like if you're trying to be centered on the ski, why are the feet a little bit behind center? You see what I'm saying?
cool. I like that. Did anybody have any ideas on that? Because funny enough, I just saw a Tim Gelling video about this exact same thing.
Oh,
Well, doesn't that have to do a little bit with the tip really, since it's curved up, essentially does not touch the snow, and essentially that's kind of like not part of the ski in terms of the length.
Actually, no, I'm sorry. It wasn't Tom Gelly. It was Ron Kipp had the whole thing about this. Sorry about that. And that's a video that you can look up on YouTube. It's a really, really interesting video where he talks. I don't remember what the video is called. I'd have to look it up again, but it's a really, really good video about, you know, why we have the bindings where we have them. And essentially the answer is that the part where the center of the ski is essentially underneath the ball of our foot. And the ball of our foot, of course, is not in the middle of our foot, it's slightly forward. So in order to get it to be centered, you have to move the binding back so that you can feel the pressure of the center of the of the ball of the foot on the center of the ski.
Okay.
And
that makes sense.
how come
Okay.
it differs for men and women?
Because some women don't weigh as much. I'm not quite sure. I don't know the entire physics of that. Another part of that little video also said that the even though that the pressure point, the center of the ski, the pressure of the center of the ski is underneath the ball of the foot, where the arc is, this narrowest part is actually closer to the heel. But again, like I said, you can look up that video. Hold on, maybe I got it somewhere. But you can look up that video, really, really good video. It's off of Ron Kipp on his YouTube channel. And it's I highly encourage you to look at it, anything he does. Like I said, any of the alphabet series, the Ron and Dan show are fantastic. You know, of course, part of the presentation, part of the research of the presentation, I looked up their thing on balance. They combine pressure, edging, and rotation into balance, and the outcomes of balance are part of those three fundamental, or those three, they call them skills. But yeah, I don't have an answer for you, Rebecca. That would be a great research topic for you, though.
Oh, you're doing the same thing I do with my students.
Exactly.
Touche.
Zinger. Zinger. I don't have an answer for you, so I'm going to therefore assign you to do it. Find it.
Okay.
But could I go back though,
Yeah.
to what what Rebecca mentioned about, you know, the grip. And so when I initiate a turn, right, at the
Mhm.
beginning of the initiation, I'll call it that, I am forward and I am putting more pressure on the toes of my feet, which means I'm probably trying to use not the whole ski in the initiation, but I'm trying to get the most grip out of the front of the ski.
I mean, kind of like this.
It's a little bit of an extreme, but yes. And again, I think as I make the turn, then I'm kind of moving, you know, my weight to be more, I'm going to say more centered. And so, but is there anything official on that?
Yeah, we're going to go over that.
Okay, thank you.
No, it is 100% official.
Okay.
You
Okay,
know,
that's what I thought.
we have to use the length of the ski in order to get it to bend and then establish grip. That's how we
Mhm.
manipulate the pressure along the length of the ski. The
Right.
ski is designed to do this. So we initiate by getting forward, which is kind of what Jonathan's doing here,
Mhm.
right? And you can actually physically see the ski bend, and you can, as a result, because he's got it on a slightly edge, it's kind of gripping a little bit. I thought this was cool, by the way. This is not the preferred way to do this.
Wow, so the tails are actually off the snow.
They're actually off the snow. And it was like, man, I want to do that, except I don't think I have my bindings as tight as he does. And I'd probably pop right out of them, but I would still
Mhm.
try this, right? Cool.
But it is fair to
But
say,
yes, not
when we
not moving,
direct
but
pressure-
it's
I'm sorry, go
standing.
ahead.
I get them to pull their heels of the
Mhm.
tails of their skis off the snow. So they start to get a feeling of their range of motion.
Yeah.
Mhm. But when we
Would you do
say,
this with a beginner group?
No, I'm talking level 5
Yeah,
type
yeah, yeah.
skiers, level
Yeah.
6.
Yeah,
I
where
would
you're kind of
agree.
exploring, maybe even level 4s.
Mhm,
where they're
Mhm.
exploring
Yep.
range of motion. Where's the max on one side? Where's the minimum on the other? Or the max on the other? I mean, you might combine this with now lean back as far as you can and try to do the same.
Exactly.
thing,
mhm.
Yeah.
right? Which is kind of the point of this. I mean, this is, I peeled this out of his interview video for his demo team where they have to submit videos. So I ripped this because I was like, oh, this is just cool as hell. I love this look.
Mhm. Well, if you take that look and you have the students ski backwards in a wedge, that's the look you get, only backwards.
Yeah,
And that teaches them to get forward.
Hmm.
yes. It does.
But
You're
just-
skipping ahead in the slides. Stop doing that.
I'm sorry.
No. This is good, right? Because at some point in time, we're going to talk about tactics on how to teach this. And the point
Yes.
is that, yeah, I have like a link in the slide deck to Trigger Boy. And where he turns around backwards in a backwards wedge and hops up the hill like 2 or 3 times, and then turns his skis back around,
Mhm.
and his posture is the ideal.
Yep.
And if you ski with Bob Barnes, I know, Gordon, have you skied with him?
Lots, relatively. Yeah.
He'll make you ski backwards, right? And make turns going backwards. Actually, he tries to make you do railroad tracks going backwards.
Hmm.
And he goes, look at the actions you can get from your skis by going backwards. That is the posture you should be adopting going forwards. And when you
Yep.
go forwards, it's like, oh my God, I feel like I'm going to tip over.
Yep.
Kind of like Jonathan here, right? Because it's almost that extreme. It almost feels that extreme. But this is the honest God truth, because we're lazy. We don't ski like this.
Mhm.
And we'll get into that because I have like quite a few big deals about the reference angles. I don't think we covered that enough in the first time around. I wanted to go ahead and hit those reference angles again, but yeah. Anyway. Anything else that anybody wants to ask about sporting directive pressure to along the length of the ski while modifying this base center of mass over basis support as on a moving platform? Sometimes we gotta be here, sometimes we gotta be here, right? Cool.
What does camber have to do with it?
That sounds like a great research project.
Oh, no.
I can actually tell you what camber is for. You have to pre-stress the ski because if it was completely flat, Rebecca, and you put it on edge, there would be no grip. You have to pre-stress it. You actually have to build in that little bit of angle there. So if you put it in a neutral stance and tipped it without much pressure, it would automatically engage. Does that make sense?
Not really, but I'll take your word for it.
It's kind of like or post-stressed concrete. So
What do
when
I
the
know
load-
about concrete?
Huh?
I'm abstract, you know?
Oh, okay. So they have pre-stressed concrete and they have post-stressed concrete. Post-stressed concrete is like a concrete slab that's straight, and they'll put a rod on the lower part of it. And then when they put the rod in place, they will crank it down on both ends, and it will cause the concrete to rise up like this. So when there's a load that goes across it, it doesn't allow the slab to crack or to
Oh, okay.
or to flex. And it's the same kind of thing on ski. If you go ahead and put that pre-stress arc in it, when you put it on the snow and you tip it on edge and then you put a little bit of pressure on it, it automatically causes the tip and tail to bite, even though it's flat on the ground.
Got it.
Cool. All right. That's the best way.
Self-steering action if it were flat.
Yeah, it would have self-steering action. It's like I tell the kids all the time, right? These guys are pretty smart. They've invented a self-steering ski. All we got to do is put it in a position to make it do it. It's so much easier. All right, cool. What is technical manual say? This is exactly the same thing as I did last time. Fore-aft movement of the center of mass. Most effective when it originates are by flexing or extending the ankles. Should be controlled by the ankles first and then complemented by movements of the rest of the body. And that's where I put this kid in, right? He's using all of his ankles. He's just using ankles there. This one's from another Ron Kit video. Funny enough, I think he ripped this from, that looks like Steamboat there. That looks like Halcyon Hill.
Do you find that a lot of people, their boots are too stiff and they can't do that?
Yeah, we're gonna go into that too.
I'm 3 for 3.
No, I'm 100% with you, man. The boots have a limiting factor. I mean, look at this kid. How much do you think this kid weighs?
Probably
70
about 80
pounds.
Yeah, 110 at max, right? He might be
Mm-hmm.
12, 13. He could be 9 years old and weigh 75. And if he's in boots that are like 110 flex,
Mhm.
I can guarantee you those boots are not going to move. They're
Mhm.
not going to move. And I run into girls often, 12, 13, 14-year-old girls whose dad buy them these stiff boots so they can grow into them. And the problem is that they can't flex those boots. They absolutely cannot flex them. They're like concrete galoshes.
Because
Now
I
this-
sometimes wonder whether my boots are, and my boots are around a 120.
Mhm.
And I just sometimes wonder, would I be a better skier if I was like let's just say 100 to go to an
Whoops, we lost him. Unbuckle your boots and find out.
Yeah,
Really fantastic drill is to unbuckle your boots and ski with your boots unbuckled. Race.
I went
with your
down
butt.
on flex because the 110s were great indoors, but as soon as it's minus 20 degrees outside, that the plastic gets so stiff that can't bend them.
Yeah, and I run into that with Langs. Langs are on the stiff side, right?
Yeah, that was my 110 Langs RS. You know,
Oh,
just
yeah,
that
they're
they're great in the
stiff.
store, but then
Oh, well, luckily I'm heavy, I'm fat, so I don't have that problem. But yeah, I get it. Because when those things set up, they set up like bricks. Cool, here's that thing again. I thought this is just a cool video, watching how you can manipulate the bending of the skis by directing pressure along the length, and in this case, just along the tips. All right, cool. What does it look like? And I know I got some notes on here, and I don't know why I can't see my notes now. And it won't let me do that. I hate that. So anyway, we're just gonna, here we go. All right. Oh, we're just gonna talk about component stability. So here is, I'm gonna go ahead and post this real quick for those of you who are interested. This is that Trigger Boy video about, you know what we were talking about? Where he goes, kind of turns himself backwards into a backwards wedge and hops up the hill. I thought it was really, really good video. I don't know if any of you guys are really familiar with Trigger Boy. He's like Croatian or Serbian, really big on YouTube, and really, really outstanding skier and coach. And he's worth following if you guys are interested in that, right? All right. All right, so skier's posture. What does it look like? Skier's posture maintains a forward lean relative to speed, terrain, and conditions. This is all relative. And then, of course, we're only talking about the sagittal plane, which is a plane that moves fore and aft. We're not talking about longitudinal or orbital or any of the others. We're really just talking about today. We're just talking about moving along the length of the ski or forward and backward. Cool.
Mhm.
And this illustration here is a really good one. Ron Kipp talks about the cone of movement, cone of stability, which is like the most that a skier can move. And this is what the cone of stability kind of looks like. And we would like to be in the center of this cone of stability. All right, and then here is a good illustration of movement along the length of the ski. And this speaks to your point that you were talking about, Jeff. Sorry, we lost you there.
Right.
Initiation, you want your pressure to be felt more along the toes or
Mhm.
ball of the foot. In the shaping phase, it should be further back in the middle or maybe just slightly in front of the heel. And then in the finish, it should feel like it's at the heel. Cool.
Mhm. Yep.
But the key to this is it's not much movement. And in this case, the one difference I have with this comes from Ron Lemaster's Ultimate Skier Manual. The one thing I have a problem with is here, look at the flex of the ankles here. It's just a little bit off. It seems like it's too much.
Hmm.
And it might be for illustrative purposes. I think it probably is. But what he's just trying to show is that the center of mass just move in relation to the feet. But at the same time, it's all the joints. It's not just the ankle joint.
I think what he's showing is that by moving from the front to the back, the center of mass stays pretty much the same.
The
That
center
in order
mass-
to maintain
the
the
center of
center of
mass, if
mass
you-
over
yes.
the base of support,
Yes,
the,
I will agree with that. What I'm saying is it's not just the ankles here, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's showing some opening up of the knees here, but it's also a little bit of the hips also. It's
well,
not just
except
the
in
ankle.
this diagram, the hips and knees pretty much stay the same, and it's just the ankle flexion that changes.
It is, and that's the part that I semi disagree with, because I'm with Tom Gelly on this. When you're in a stiff boot, do you really have this range of motion?
Not a prayer.
And that's why I'm like, this is an upper level group right now. If I was talking to like level ones looking for level twos, I'd be like, yeah, this is a pretty accurate description of what we want. Now we're like, wait a minute, is this actually truly accurate? Because we have all these other joints we use too, including shoulders, arms, and hips, and this may not quite be as descriptive as we would like. But that I'm going to let it go for now. I'm not going to worry about it because I got some better slides for that. All right.
Okay.
Well, what it does say is the upper body does not change.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and I think that's the big contrast, that it's just exactly the same forward. I mean, at the initiation, transition, or finish.
How many of you guys are on Facebook are on Elite Skiing?
I am.
You are?
Oh.
I'm sure you are, Rebecca, right?
No, I'm not.
You're
I
not?
never heard of elite skiing.
There is a Facebook group called Elite Skiing, and it's like a bunch of high level instructors and race junkies.
Mhm.
And they put these videos on. There's a new video that's been coming out where they take the camera or the video and they center it on the person's center of mass. So the center of mass never changes. And all you see is the skis move out and then move back and then move out and move back and move out and move back. I got to figure out how to rip some of those videos because they're fantastic to look at. Because they
You
really
can just
show the-
download, you can download them off Facebook.
AD?
You can?
Yeah,
No,
just go to the top corner. There's like 3 little dots and it'll say save or download, and you can just download them.
Well, my God, if there is one, I'm gonna go ahead and put it up here.
Hey, Chuck, so are they saying that by changing this position as you move through the turn,
Uh-huh.
keeps your mass centered at the center of the ski?
No, and that's the key point. Is that we're always moving the center of mass in terms of the base of support, right? When we're initiating a turn, we want the tip of the ski to bend. I want that center of mass over the tip, or in this case, over the ball of the foot, so I can manage the pressure to the tip of the ski.
Mhm.
Similar to what we saw with, similar to what we saw with Jonathan here, right?
Mhm.
Or this is an extreme example, but this is what we're looking for, right?
Right.
And the idea is that we get the tip of the ski to bend first, got to put pressure there. And then as we roll through the turn, and trust me, I got a video that's coming up that's going to illustrate this from Lindsey Vaughn. As we get through the turn, the ski, the center of mass moves back to the center of the ski at the shaping phase, and then even further back at the finish. And it's because at the initiation, I need the tip to grip. In the shaping phase, I need the center of the ski to grip. And in the finish, I gotta have the tails to grip. You're always moving along the length of the ski.
Why wouldn't you keep a position? I mean, I understand how you want to initiate the turn by having more pressure at the tip,
Uh-huh.
but beyond that, or as you move through the turn phase, wouldn't you want as much pressure along the whole edge of the ski so you're maximizing grip that we talked about earlier?
You would, but at the end of the turn, the pressure is gonna build up the most, is it be at the most. And you really want the tail of the ski. If you do not get established grip at the tail of the ski will spin out. It'll spin out like this.
Okay. Then my
Because
second,
there's more tip exposed, right?
yeah,
Yeah, because the center of the ski is actually towards the ball of our foot to help us initiate, but as soon as we get to the finish, we're still forward. There's not going to be much grip on the tail, and we're going to spin out. We're going to lose grip.
and would you would these diagrams also apply to skiing moguls, or is this more of a groomed?
Oh, moguls is a little bit different, but yes. And that's going to be next week or 2 weeks.
Okay,
We're
because
going to talk about, we're going to start talking about different conditions and how we modify our stance in accordance with those different conditions. Cool. So
yeah,
today we're just
what
talking about
happens
flat
is,
skiing on flat ground, right?
right, because people end up in the back seat. I mean, they,
Yeah.
yeah, and if you
100%.
start like in that finish diagram, it's a lot easier to overextend that and get in the back seat than if you maintain the initiation or the shaping position throughout the whole turn.
Yeah, cool. Exactly. All right. So ready for our first video? This is going to really help you illustrate it. I'm going to start adopting the Jonathan Blue method of just showing you really high-end skiing. No, I'm not. All right, here she is. And this is Lindsey Vaughn. Everybody see the video? Ready? I slowed it way down. She's really going that fast. This is like at 37 speed. And then they have it at ultra slow motion. Now, this is the key here. This is the part that I really want you to see is here she's coming out. Is she in a balanced position over the center of her skis?
She's got her hips quite low.
She has her hips quite
So-
low. Yeah, so
The
what is
ankles are open.
ankles are open? Yep. Yep. What
So
else?
she's
I mean,
essentially in the back, and actually, if I'm seeing correctly, one of the skis is the inside skis are off the snow practically.
Yeah, and
Or
the
is that
outside
just
ski,
illusion?
actually, if you look, this tip here is off the snow too, isn't it? So you could probably say both skis are off the snow,
Um,
and it will be evident on next when we get done with this. So what does she gotta do here to start the next turn?
Yeah, forward.
She's gotta get forward. How does she do that?
by moving her center of mass.
Yeah. She's
So it's
allowed the
tip-
center of
tip
mass
of
here.
this-
And yeah, well, let's just go ahead and get through here, right? Okay, now she's more centered. The skis are starting to engage. And by the time she gets to the gate, bam. Look at the outside ski. Where is the snow coming off the outside ski?
The whole ski.
Yeah, or
Mm.
basically, I'm really looking at the tip here, right?
Mhm.
I mean, we literally see the very tip engaged. So she's managed to go from this position here, where she's not really ready to engage yet, and in within tenths of a second, she's here.
Right, so she did that by extending her leg, especially her outside leg.
Yeah,
So she moved her base of support relative to her center of mass. She
Yeah.
didn't try to move the center of mass way forward on the skis, just extending the leg changes the position of the base of support, right?
cool.
Yeah. And it's all in
Cool.
her lower body, just like, what we just saw.
It's all in her lower body, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
It didn't change the upper body.
So Daryl, here's something that I want you to watch. As you were talking about how we move from tip to tail.
Mm-hmm,
Mhm.
So right here, we can all agree she's engaging the tip.
sure.
Mhm.
Now she's turned. Now she's engaged the center of the ski. Watch what the ski, as soon as she hits this gate, the turn is over for her, right?
Mhm.
Watch what happens to the skis in relation to her body. Are
Mm.
they moving faster or slower than the body?
Faster, because they have to go from left to right, her left to
Yeah.
right. They have to pinch
Rebecca, which way is her body moving?
The
into the
opposite.
next turn.
Towards the next turn,
Yeah,
but she's letting those skis go out from underneath her. How much air has she got underneath those skis?
Oh, a lot.
2 to 3 inches, I'd say.
All of
Well-
it, right?
Yeah, the edge that she has is phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like,
That's-
holy shit.
That's years and years up there with Eric Saylor up at Buck Hill, man.
Mhm,
She was a
I mean-
top junior slalom skier in the whole Midwest.
mhm.
Look at the bend that she gets.
Mhm.
See how that tip engages way before the tail because the tail's
Mhm.
still spinning. Bam.
Mhm.
And then she gets this, tip is engaged. Right here, the center of the ski's engaged. And then watch how the skis come around. And they way accelerate away from the body. Whoop.
I'd be on my ground.
Oh man, this is so much fun. This is called vaulting. This is where you go into turn and you come out and you're in the air and you're like, that was cool.
Well, I see that, I know someone said earlier that the upper body doesn't move, but I feel like she's making a concerted effort to move her body down the hill to keep up with the skis as they accelerate.
Yeah, she's
So
taking a
she's
shorter
got to
path.
Take that, yeah, she's got to take that initiative to, you see her like whole body just lunging forward to the next.
Exactly. And I have
diagonally.
other videos of like Ted Ligety doing the same thing, where you see him come out of a turn and the body almost, and he's finished here, and the body just crosses over almost instantly, like he's physically extending throwing
Mhm.
his body down the hill and then letting the skis just catch up to him.
So
That's-
this might be neither here nor there, but as she's getting her weight towards the back, opening up her ankle, is she doing
she
that
will-
by purposely like moving her body to the back a little bit, or by letting the
Yes.
skis accelerate faster than her body?
She's allowing the skis to outrace her, but
Okay,
she knows this is part of the release that she has. Because right now, in this spot right here, you see a high edge angle. Skis are still engaged, but she's already in the process of releasing.
mhm,
And the body is telling you that she's releasing because the body's already in this organized mode of crossing over. The body is moving towards the next apex of the next turn, even though the skis are not.
yeah. Well, another way to
this-
say that would be zipper down the fall line.
That would be, yeah.
Beck, is it fair to say that in transition, you almost have to open your ankles? You have nothing to press against. There's no pressure.
I'm gonna say
left
that, I
against the
wouldn't say
tips.
that you're gonna open your ankles, right? You are put yourself in a body position to allow the ankles open a little bit, but you're not trying to physically open your ankles.
Well, I agree, you're not trying to, but I'm starting to believe that the flex in the boot is from the force of against the tip of the ski more so than the force we can generate with a dorsiflexion movement.
See, that's an interesting topic for another day. And I love that idea. And I'm gonna bring it up in the next session where we get into that level 3 thing where we engage the ski modifies how our ankle stability is. And if we let the skis run down the hill, our ankles are going to be open, but as soon as we turn the skis sideways, what happens to our ankles?
Flex.
They flex. And the skis come back at you. And that's a very, very interesting topic because that starts talking about tactics. And here's something I ran across also. This is another thing from Ron Lemaster. If you feel pressure on the heels, you're on the edge. But by the time you feel the back of the boot, it's too late. If you feel the tails of the skis, it's definitely too late. And this is about racing. I mean, Ron Lemaster was mostly about racing, but I think that's a very, very plausible way of looking at it is to say, okay, yeah, I want to feel the heel or maybe just in front of the heel. But if I feel the back of the boot, oops, too much. And if I feel the skis bend in the tails, yeah, I know I'm too far.
I mean, I can think, this is professional racing at its best, and it's a high level. But at the levels that I teach, there will be times where students will feel the pressure in the right spot and the skis shoot out from under them. And I'll try to make them aware of that. And I'll say, did you notice your skis shoot out in front of you and you got caught back? And I said, let's do it again. And they go, yeah, I noticed that. So it's a good example of when you're pressuring the ski along the length of the ski in the right place in the apex, that your skis will tend to accelerate a little bit, which means your body has to be in position, which is then you get into inclination and angulation and all that. But I think at our level when we're teaching, you can spot moments where skis accelerate, and that's I think a good teaching moment if you can get a student to feel that.
Yeah, I love the fact that she's allowing these skis to accelerate. And part of that is managing the pressure that's built up in the ski bend. You'll feel a sling. And I call that the fun moment. I looked forward to that when I was racing slalom. I always looked forward to that spot where I would be literally being flung from one turn to the other. I always look forward to that because I knew I was maximizing my acceleration. But it's you're riding the edge, man. And you're very, very close to fail. So
Yeah, I mean, this is a very subtle thing. I was watching Larry Murdoch doing an MA critiquing skiers who wanted to get I think level 2 testing.
mhm.
And he was very conscientious, like, don't let your skis get too far in front of you, because it looks like you're losing it, as your weight goes towards the back. Like,
Yeah.
I was talking about
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah, and it really, I honestly, in my own defense, and I say this often, is that I'm physically a very strong person because I work at it very hard. Alberto Tombo was the same way. He could just manhandle those skis and make them ride tails. And if you were back in those days or long skis, Tombo, Mark Girardelli,
is.
all these guys were
You poor starving dog.
tremendously strong individuals and could get the tail of the ski to bend.
No, I've seen it.
But it's not good skiing in terms of the PSI. So, all right, cool. Back to the
That makes
presentation.
sense.
My God, it's almost 8 o'clock already. All right, where were we? We're moving along the length of the ski. Does this help you at all, Daryl? This was
Oh, absolutely. It's just great to
not so
think about
subtle
this.
way of showing you, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to think about this during the summer versus November starts rolling around. It's like, oh my gosh, gotta start thinking about skiing. How do I teach someone how to ski again?
Exactly. Well, this allows you just to think about how to teach skiing again.
Yeah,
So, all right.
and how to
Um,
ski.
Yeah. So here are the reference angles. How many of you guys know about reference angles? I know Gordon
Little bit.
does. I'm
Little
pretty
bit.
sure. Is Kevin still with us? Kevin's still here too. He knows about them. Everybody pretty much should know about what the reference angles are, right? Okay.
I'm not sure if I
so-
do.
That's from
Oh, that's
Run
fine.
the Master, isn't it? The reference angles and
Yeah, he kind of does it. This is straight. What's here is straight from the technical manual.
yeah, I'm gonna have to leave at 9. I have
Oh.
9 o'clock, which is
I'm sorry to hear that. The video will be available whenever you need it. Okay.
all right.
But we'll
I'll
miss you.
try to hang on for.
No, that's fine. I don't have a whole lot more to go. I really want to get these reference angles down though. Because I didn't think I did enough about reference angles the last time. So the technical term in the technical manual is the shin angle should match the angle of the spine, or in this case, the spine angle should match the angle of the shin, or in this case, those lines should be parallel. Does everybody see that? Okay. The upper part of the body is ahead or leads the lower part of the body. In this case, they specifically use the language hips over feet. Their hands should be ahead of the elbows, and the elbows should be slightly ahead of the chest. And then I put a little dot here, which shows the center of mass, which is for men. It's kind of where the belly button is. For women, it might be slightly lower. Doesn't matter. Belly button's a good reference.
Could you do those again? I'm just trying to write this down and I can't write as fast as you speak.
I put the link to this slide deck in the chat.
Oh, good.
So you should be able to pull those up whenever you need to.
Thank you.
All right, cool. But yeah, this is in the technical manual. And then for those of you who were here yesterday or last week, when I was giving the MA and I had like that MA sheet, those reference angles are in there too.
I didn't get them in the chat yet.
I know. Oh,
Mhm.
you didn't get the chat, the chat for the drop zone?
Nope, I got the trigger boy.
All
Mhm.
right, hold on. Killing me, man. All right, I'm gonna post it again.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. It's all your fault. No problem.
I understand. You sound like a spouse.
Exactly. All right, there you go. I posted it again.
Got it.
So you can download it. And you can I'm gonna put this in a regular fundamentals folder where you can go ahead and download all this information. All right, cool.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is the PSIA's version of the shin angle. However, Here is, how many of you are familiar with Tom Gelly and big picture skiing?
I have his description.
If you are not, you should be paying attention to him. He is phenomenal when it comes to education and phenomenal when it comes to um, the technical, oh, what am I trying to say? The how the body moves. He's really fantastic at that. And this is his reference angle. And he would like the hips to be slightly behind the feet, which will give you more range of motion in the boots. So the boot shin angle in his case should intersect where the head is at. Hips should be slightly behind the feet, projecting the rib cage forward. And this will allow you to have more range of motion in the ankle. And he has other language that he talks about where he says it's like you should be 1/3 of the way into the squat. I'm not as interested in that. See you later, Rebecca. Sorry to lose you. But the key is that in his case, where PSI would like to have the pressure over the ball of the foot, he feels that pressure should be balanced and felt over the whole foot from heels to toes, not just the ball of the foot. If he was going to localize pressure, yes, from the ball of the foot to somewhere in front of the heel, along that arch. And he has very, very technical reasons why he talks about biomechanics for that. You're welcome to look that up. It's part of the arches video that he has where he talks about the 3 arches in the foot. Really highly recommend you look at it. If you really want to get deep dive into the things about the ankle or about the foot. Some things I'm not quite so, he's a little shady on, but there's a lot of just tremendously good information. Cool, moving on. This is what it doesn't look like. Even though that the shin angle is parallel with the back, the spine angle, where's the center of mass?
Looks like it's back.
Yeah, it's kind of behind the heels, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
If he tried to walk this way, how would he be successful?
Funny.
And the girl that's next to here, these are from the previous slide decks. This girl here, I could put the center of mass on her too. She's doing it a little differently. She looks like from the head to the left foot looks pretty good. But she's balanced over the inside foot, which is modifying her ability to move fore and aft.
Hmm.
And these things happen. We see this a lot, right? It's a lot different than, and then here's another slide, says reference angle. Here's some common stance problems.
Hey, Gumby, Lindsay's still showing.
Yeah, I only see
Oh, is
Lindsay.
she? Oh my God, I'm sorry.
So we missed
sorry. Hold on.
all of those.
Geez, man, this is a problem, is that I'm like, all right, let's go back up here. All right, this might be, but here's a reference angle, PSIA reference angles. Everybody see this now?
Mm-hmm.
All right, here is Tom Gelly's reference angles. He's a little he's a little bit less about the elbows and hands. One of the best things I've ever heard about hands is that hands will not help you get into balance, but they will certainly get you out of balance. So hands are something you need to pay attention to, but they're not the thing that's going to get you into balance. If your body posture is bad, that's not going to be the fix. So let's focus less on hands and more on posture. Here's what bad looks like. Just make more sense now?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Jeff.
No, it was Darryl, actually.
Huh?
It was Daryl who sent a
Oh,
note.
Daryl, sorry. Thank you, Daryl.
You're welcome. No worries.
All right, here are some reference angles. This is according to BPS. I just love the way he does this. Hands are really far forward, waist successfully pushing on the cuff of the boot. As you get in higher, this is not as prevalent in level 1 or level 2. But when you get to level 3, they will be starting to talk about range of motion. And this is where having lighter contact on the front of boot so you have greater range of motion is more important than what we, more important than always having your shin smashed into the front of the boot. It's not a good thing. It leads to overflexed ankles and a more upright stance. And I've heard this before, so I know. And the other thing is he talks about there's no muscular tension in the posterior chain. I don't really feel this in skiing, but I feel it in rollerblading every time I go out to rollerblade. This posterior chain is a big deal there. And here is differences. Just for those of you who want to see, butt out's a little bit more. I wouldn't say the butt out's a little bit more, but just less focused on trying to be over the feet and more about being in a balanced position. So that you can move. You always want to be able to move. All right, visual cues. This is trick from the last time. Visual cues for an effective skiing. This is the ski performance only. Skis are bending from middle to back, snows spraying from the back of the ski, tips are bouncing, skis accelerate through the turn. If I'm sure all of you have felt this, skis don't pivot from the center of the ski. And I believe I have a video for less than ideal. Oh, somebody send me a chat again. Hold on. Somebody needs to mute. Okay, got it. I'm sure they got it. All right, cool. So I'm pretty sure we're looking at the guy in the black and gray here. Anybody going to run a quick MA on this guy? Even though that we're over time.
Where it's back.
He's back. What's that causing his skis to do?
The tips to come up.
Okay. So the ski performances, the tips are up, right? Let's go back here, do this again, and we're gonna shorten this a little bit. All right, good. Okay, so the ski tips are coming up. Are both ski tips coming up or just one?
It looks like his left.
I think it's both skis. Okay. So why are his skis coming up?
His
And you
weight.
did say he was back, but describe the back part again. And again, what's the language we use? We talk about joints and we're talking about pressure.
Ankles are open.
Uh-huh.
And
What else?
center of mass is back.
Why is the center of mass back? And talk about terms of joints.
Well, he's probably more on his heels and
Mhm.
his ankles are open. They're not flexed enough at the initiation of the turn.
Cool. Pretty much all the way through the turn though, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then what's he doing with his knees? Are his knees appropriate? And this is a rhetorical question.
Doesn't look like there's any flexion or extension of his knees.
Only in
Doesn't-
terms of, only in terms for moving from one side to the other, right?
Yeah.
I don't feel like he's in an athletic position overall.
No.
His
What
hands
is
are
he-
down,
Mhm.
What is he
which is
doing
called back.
instead?
He's
And-
turning with his upper body.
He's swinging with his upper body, and that's kind of, is that a, and that's more rotary realm, right?
Mhm.
But is that because of the fore aft, or is that a result of the fore aft, or is he causing his fore aft to fail because of the rotation?
Well, would it be that because he's not waiting this pressure rating the ski at the initiation phase, he's got to, just rotate his body to get the return versus allowing the ski shape to help with the turn?
Cool.
Yes.
I like that answer.
Mhm.
That's a good skill to skill relationship there. So here he is. Let's go back up here a little bit. Like, oops, not there. That's the wrong one. I want to go to right about here. No. So here's the initiation. And you pretty much called it, Kimberly. I mean, the skis are in the
Mhm.
air, right?
Mhm.
So why are the skis in the air? And we're talking about joints. So this, we're
Mhm.
bending at the back. You already said the ankles are open, right?
His weight is on his inside ski.
His weight is on, well, no, we're talking about fore aft only, right?
Okay.
All right. So here's the ski, here are the ankles, here's the knee, here's the hips. So the ankles are already open. What's happening with the knee there? Is that appropriate, or maybe not so appropriate, or bad, good, indifferent?
Like the outside knee is that flexed. It's just that the ankle is so open. The inside knee is quite flexed. But yeah, he doesn't have things flexed proportionally, so that moves his center of mass to behind the base of support.
So I'm going to call a little differently. Yeah, you already called the ankles are open. Is his knee appropriately flexed? And I'm only going to talk about the outside knee because that's the busy one right now. I want to say, yeah, that knee doesn't look real bad. But because his ankles are open, what's he doing with his upper body?
He's sitting back and he's bending forward. He's flexing more in the waist, so his butt goes
Yeah.
back, and he's leaning forward to compensate for he's trying to find his balance.
That's perfect. That's what I was looking for. He's compensating by closing his hips to try to get more balanced over the center of the skis, even though his ankles are really putting him in a compromised position.
Mhm.
Does that make sense to you, Kimberly?
Mhm. It does, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
If you could get him to close his ankles, it would really help in getting him major improvements.
It would make a huge difference, wouldn't it? Because he gets to right here and it's like, oh my God, dude. And it's just some more of the same, right? And now he's shoving that inside leg forward to try to balance because his ankles are so open. Kind of like the girl that I showed you just a minute ago. Even though she looked pretty good, she had to shove that leg forward so she could balance over it. Because this ankle is still open. Look,
Mhm.
this is a ski. Ankle's still open, knees are back here. Body has to compensate a lot. And then he's got to shove that leg forward in order to compensate over that outside ski. Lots of nastiness happening.
Mhm.
And as a result, how does he have to turn? Who called
Right.
it? Somebody
Using
said
his
something.
upper body.
Yeah, he's got to use his upper body.
That's
So
the
he
only
can't
way he
use
can
legs.
turn.
It's the only way he can turn. That's part of that cascading thing that happens with fore aft. Cool. All right, cool. Last of the slide deck. And as a result, we have this is a ski performance. Would you say his ski tips for bouncing?
Mhm.
Right? Skis accelerate through the turn. That's a natural thing. That's why they try to finish their turn so quickly, which results in effective outcomes
it.
for skis. Z-shaped turns. Quickly thrust sideways. Skis pivot quickly, but not under toes. No shaping control or finish completion
Mhm.
phases, incomplete turns and constant acceleration. These are all things that happen when we don't have control over our tips of our skis.
Mhm.
Bye, Joanne. Have a great night.
Mhm.
No problem. No problem. Always a pleasure. All right. What does it feel like? Pressure moves along the arch of the foot. This is identical to what we said before. Straight from the last slide deck. Pressure slightly increases or decreases on the shin and tongue of the boot as we move forward and back. Sometimes when we move forward, we want more pressure on the front of the boot. When we're moving through the turn, that pressure is going to release and it's going to be a little bit less pressure on the front of the boot. However, when we'll talk about this quite a bit, we always want to have ankle tension. Always want to have ankle tension. And part of that comes from the stiffness of the boot. All right, just real quickly, how does our stance change when the terrain changes? This is just a quick illustration, but what do you do differently when you're on steeper slopes than opposed to
Mhm.
easier slopes in terms of fore-aft pressure?
I
This is
think
a
you have
good
to
one.
be a
This is
lot more deliberate on a steeper slope to get your body moving forward into the turn, because the skis are going to tilt a long ways down the hill. Your body has to follow that. Your body's
It-
more massive. It's going to resist the movement.
It does, and I'm going to talk about tipping point, right? And so what he's showing here is that as the slope flattens, you don't want to be sitting more, as a result, you're going to be sitting more backwards, right? As you're going this way, or how do I want to do this? As you're going down the hill and you're like this, and the slope flattens, and we've all felt this. What happens to our posture?
Mhm.
It tends to be more forward.
Mhm.
And as we get to a slope and the skis move away, what do we got to do different? And it can only be a slight difference. It doesn't need to be a whole lot because it comes to tipping point and where our center of mass is. So if it's really steep, and I've noticed this I just noticed this recently in like a lot of these Warren Miller movies, and these guys are going down incredible slopes, right? And you're always looking at him and go, man, that guy's kind of far back. And it's because, yeah, he's far back, but at the same time, he's still getting engagement because the tipping point of where the ski bends, his body's still ahead of it, even though it's still a little bit more opened up. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this next time. Because what happens if we don't? Well, everybody had this feeling before?
Mhm.
Mhm.
The point of this is we're constantly moving our fore aft, our basis support, our center of mass over our base of support as the terrain changes. And when we get into bumps, this is a preview for next week. This is what happens when we're into bumps and we do not compensate for moving fore aft into bumps. And really it's not how we're moving our center of mass, it ends up being how do we move our base of support.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So is
Amy?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Keep trying to figure out what happened to me in the bumps. I don't think I was using really any quick fore-aft movement to slow myself down in the bumps. Is that is there a kind of a throwing of your, your skis forward to slow yourself down on the high end of the bump on the uphill side?
Well, okay, so without doing a complete lesson for you.
No. Yeah. Yeah, I can wait till next week.
No, and this works out well because bumps are a little bit different than normal skiing, right? What's the main problem this skier has in the bumps?
Getting thrown back and not being able to control your skis.
Well, yeah, but where is she in terms of her skis and the snow interaction?
Up in the air.
Yeah, she's up in the air. How well can you effectively turn in the air?
Well, pretty easy.
Yeah. No, you're not turning at all.
No, I know.
You're going the wrong direction, right? So in this case, yeah, she's got good ski go interaction, and the first two positions look good, and then she gets bucked, and now she's like, uh-oh, and she's in the air for the next 3 frames, and this is going to be, well, she doesn't show the landing, but it's probably going to be a pretty harsh landing, right? Because all she's doing is accelerating from the point of the time she gets bucked to the point in time she actually contacts the ground again. So the key is, we have to keep our skis on the ground as much as possible. And whatever we need to do to keep the skis on the ground is going to help us in bumps. So what do we want to do here? Instead of allowing our skis to get shot forward like this, we need to absorb this bump and allow the body to move forward so that the skis will be behind us instead of going whoop like this with the skis. Your body is going to be going into the bump this way. You're going to absorb the bump. The body's going to do this pressure wedge, and then it's going to go over the bump first. And that's going to allow us to pressure the tips of the skis on the opposite side of the bump. And of course, there's lots and lots of tactics about that. I'm really, really simplifying it. But the key is we got to figure out ways to get our skis on the ground as soon as possible. And if we don't have the skis on the ground, obviously we know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Hey, Gumby, you had recommended a while back. It's about a 70-page book by Dan DePiro.
Oh, man. That's like the mogul Bible. Yes.
Yep. Yeah, it's called Everything the Instructors Never Told You About Mogul Skiing.
Exactly.
And it's only like $10.
Yeah, I know. And
But
I'm gonna create a run on that book. There's never gonna be a copy available again. Dan's gonna be like, I'm gonna have to do a 3rd and 4th running on these just to keep up with demand. No, it's a fantastically good book because the guy is like a former mogul coach, but he's also like a level 3 ski instructor, level 3 snowboard instructor, blah, blah. So he knows the same things that we do, which is, okay, yeah, we want to make short turns into bumps. Well, that doesn't mean anything. No, the key is don't let your skis get off the ground. You lose all control as soon as the skis get off the ground. And then it's about pressure to the outside ski. So we could create we don't want to be on edge, but we want to be able to find those landing zones, which is where she is in frame 2. She's found the landing zone, but she didn't slide the landing zone. She came in too steep with an edge, and that slung her. And now she's like, uh-oh, not bad idea, bad idea. And we're going to talk about this on the next one because fore aft becomes really, really relevant in steeps, bumps, and broken snow. And that's where people really fail their level 3 performances is in steeps, bumps, and broken snow. Cool. Any other questions? Oh, that's the end of it. I have one more.
What was the name of that book?
Dan Pierre, everything, what is it called again? I don't have it right here in front of me. Everything your ski instructors don't tell you about skiing bumps or something like that. It's by Dan DePiro, DePirro.
I think it's on Amazon.
Like I said, I carry that book around with me everywhere. Is it Dip Hero? Dip Hero?
I got it in front of me. It's DIPIRO.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
its
yeah.
official name is Everything the Instructors Never Told You About Mogul Skiing.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Great.
If you don't have it, you should,
Mhm.
because it's just a great book. And it looks like it's still on. Here it is, everything you need to know. Looks like you can still find lots of used ones.
Mhm. Mhm.
It will become your mogul Bible.
Okay,
It's a
great.
very, very good book. And he talks about doing slippery, slidey, no edgy, moving through the book, being more upright. Because mogul skiing is different than, we don't want to be going into mogul skiing with, being in the stance that we just talked about. That's not a good idea. You don't want to be over your skis quite like that. Let me go back here. You don't want to be like this, kind of hunched over. That's not a good idea. You want to be way more upright and allow the terrain to move underneath you. But again, I'm going to go over this next week or in 2 weeks, not next week, in 2 weeks. And we'll talk more about moguls and bump runs and stuff like that, because Gordon brought up something interesting too, which is about this idea of, when the skis start going down the hill, our center of mass relationship to the base of sport changes. Okay. And it didn't really show it well in this here. It kind of does, but all of these are proper stances, even though because the butts are more over the skis there, that's actually a proper stance, because it allows you to still move forward and tip the ski, put pressure on the tip of the ski to allow it to bend and engage, but you look like you're back from a side view. We always have to be kind of careful of that, because terrain and stuff like that changes. Cool.
Yet, hey, Gumby, when you do talk about mogul skiing, could you spend a good amount of time on absorption and how to absorb? I don't think I really understand how best to absorb.
Well, how do you absorb?
Well, for me, it's getting lower and, just absorbing I call it the crash, but that's
The
not exactly
crash?
right.
Yeah, we call it the bang moment, right? Or the
exactly.
moment, or, and I'm like Jimmy Shaw. I don't know if not all of you know who Jimmy Shaw is. He's National Telemark demo team member and one of my idols and one of my mentors. He talks about taking the bang away. I don't want to bang anymore. When I was younger, I'd bang. Now I'm like, I don't want to bang anymore. Right?
Yeah, but it's how to do that.
Sucks.
Yeah, how to do that. So I think we use the word, but we really don't explain the progression.
We really don't. We really don't. And we should talk about the progression more and more and more, because I want to take the bang away. I don't like the bang.
No, me neither. Because I usually crash.
Here's one of my favorite skiers in the world. You may recognize her. Free skiing. How does she manage the pressure? And I'm going to tell you right now that she cheats. She's like Marcel Hirscher. But I swear to God, I think I could watch her free ski slalom turns all day long. But in terms of fore aft, how does she get to the front of the ski? Because there's that acceleration that we talked about, right? And then she's slightly back, and then bam. How does she do that?
It's almost like she's opening up her ankle by getting more vertical.
She does, but does she ever get vertical?
Never gets vertical, but relatively speaking, goes from, say, more compressed to less compressed.
Yeah, because she's not really standing there, right?
No.
Yeah,
But
she
she's not
just-
as low as there.
But the key part is, and this is a part that almost doesn't really show, and we should show it more. This is probably a pretty steep hill. But she moves, she gets out of this turn, and then watch what happens with her upper body. Which way is her upper body moving?
Next turn.
Next
Moving
turn.
towards the apex of the next turn.
And where's her skis moving?
Opposite.
Away from the body
Yeah, for a moment. Yeah.
for a moment. That's how she gets to that position. We gotta be moving forward at the end
So
of the turn.
the other thing she's doing is she's at her most flex point during transition, and she's extending her legs in the initiation and then in the shaping phase. Extending the legs is moving the center of mass, and the relationships that are center of mass is moving ahead of her base of support. She goes
Exactly.
from very flexed knees to straighter knees very quickly.
Very quickly. Very quickly, because she knows she has a, I mean, how long is that pressure spot, Gordon? How long is that pressure spot where she's at maximum pressure?
Fractions of a second.
Fractions of a second, right? I mean, she knows that she's got to stand on this. She's not going to be able to flex into this turn. I mean, it's like, it's going to be over in a blur. I mean, that is like, how many, I'm not even like a ski and a half, maybe not even a ski's worth is she engaged, and then she's already off the ski and releasing. See how she releases?
What's amazing to me is the way she's developing such a high edge angle before there's any engagement. She didn't get engagement. She just sit down.
Yeah. I mean, look at the angles. She's not engaged there.
Mm-hmm.
She's not engaged. Bam, off them, off, on them, off. This is the perfect turn here. On them. And then she's off. But she managed that fore aft. It doesn't look like much, but I see a lot of movement there. And you can see times where the skis accelerate.
Mhm.
And she's using that as a way to they're like right there. Woof. There, that ski took off on her. But that's all right. She's like, no problem. Let's go. Might have compromised her counter a little bit on that turn, but you know what? We're all allowed to have mistakes. Even the best skier ever to have raced laced up ski boots. There's no arguing now, right? Here's Petra. Petra's almost is 6 feet tall. Michaela's only 5'6" or 5'8". I'm sorry, she's 5'8". This girl's almost 4 inches taller. Again, how long is a pressure spot? How does she move? She's moving more forward actually than it seems like Michaela is. But she creates a lot more counter rotation too. See, who else have I got? Oh, we got to put old Jonathan up here. All right, slow motion, medium radius turns. Sorry, this is going so long. I swear to God, I'm stopping in like a couple minutes. Again, how does he get forward? Jonathan's a master at this. When he moves up, he moves forward.
Is there something about how low he gets that plays a major role? So I don't hear that talked about much.
Well, he is allowing the skis to help him transition, right?
Mhm.
So as the skis move through the turn and he finishes the turn, he allows that ski the resistance to help him move back up, and the skis move across. But the key is, the point that we're trying to make on a lot of these is is that the body moves a shorter distance than the skis do,
Mhm.
which allows the body to outrun the skis at the top of the turn.
I see the commonality with a guy like Mike Rogan, the captain of the team,
Oh, yeah.
and they all just get so low in those
Oh.
turns.
Mike Rogan looks like he's ice skating on turns. I've
Mhm.
actually watched him live making turns like this.
Mhm.
He's even more accurate than Jonathan is. He
Right.
literally looks like he has ice skates on. The snow
Mhm.
comes off and it sounds different when Mike Rogan's going down. It's crazy. And
Because
I
we
mean,
never really talk about the height of the turn. In other words, in terms of, well, the extension up and down.
mhm.
You know, we use it very broadly, but these guys who are the best at, in PSIA, man, they're all very low.
Well, yeah, but they have to be, right?
Hmm.
They got to be low because in this kind of a turn, in order to get early engagement, and I'm
Hmm.
skipping ahead again, you're forcing me into next week or in 2 weeks. In order to get that early turn engagement, you have to be in a position where you can make that movement. If you're up in the air, trying to turn is going to be a bad idea. It's going to be hard for you.
Well, I sometimes wonder in my own skiing, do I just need to practice getting much lower for early engagement?
I wouldn't be low for low's sake. You're
Okay.
low because that's what the because that's what the turn requires, not the other way around.
Okay.
Okay. Don't think that I gotta be low. I gotta be low. No. That's missing the cart for the horse. That's the idea is that you want to be putting yourself in a position where you can resist forces. And they're in a
Gotcha.
position here to resist forces.
Because if Ski Mac was on, when I watch him, he's another, I call it low skier.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
And I just wondered whether I'm missing something.
No, I don't think you are.
Because these guys are so pretty, ballerinas.
They are. All right, we gotta go. It's
All right.
way
Are
later.
we not
Half
on
an hour
next
later
week,
than I
Gumby?
should have been. Huh?
Are we not on next week?
Not next week. Next week's Father's Day, man. Don't you have kids? They should be
Yes, sir.
honoring you for how awesome you are.
Well, they're taking me skiing Sunday.
That's cheap.
Yeah, well, that's being a father.
That's being a father, exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Gumby.